So, in therapy, we make use of a number of tools that help the client or the individual develop a more clear understanding of the situation they're dealing with. And one of these tools is analogies. So, an analogy is a comparison between what the patient is going through to something that they're already familiar with but has very fundamental similarities to the situation they're in. So, an analogy has to be something that the patient is easily familiar with, maybe on a smaller scale or on a different scale, that allows them to build a perspective that clearly illustrates to them the situation that they're in, or perhaps something that they want to get into in future. And we can look at an example of an analogy today that could help a patient perhaps build perspective on a betrayal that they're experiencing. So here's a person who is in a relationship and they've established trust with the other person. And it's this trust that makes the relationship meaningful, important, fulfilling. But now this trust has been broken. They did something they were not supposed to do, they did something they promised not to do, or they didn't do something they promised they would do. So a person is feeling very let down, very disappointed, betrayed. And those emotions can be very intense, very consuming, very overwhelming. And the mind is going to look for ways to comfort you as much as it can. So you're going to have these thoughts that say, I'm never going to trust again. I'm never going to do this to myself again. I'm never going to let somebody else in. And in that moment, that can be helpful. You saying that to yourself and even believing it, it could actually be soothing in that difficult emotional experience. But eventually, after some time, you have to come out of that soothing yourself period to now processing the experience, to now nursing that wound back to health. Because you can't continue having the wound and all you do is just soothe it. You have to look at the wound and start cleaning it and start producing the factors or creating the factors that can allow it to heal. And in processing the wound, the biggest thing that you're going to have to do is understand the situation more clearly and know yourself more deeply. What made you susceptible to betrayal? Why did you trust the person in the first time? What did you see that, or what should you be more careful next time? So that's in the processing the wound. But we're going back to the analogy to stick to the point. So if we come to the realization that trust is the most important ingredient in a meaningful relationship, then we look at the word ingredient and we see that it fits well in food items or food aspect. And so if I use an analogy of food that you can easily relate with, I would tell you that, as an example, onions are a very important ingredient in a tasty meal. And we want to be able to eat tasty meals as much as we can because they are part of our source of daily pleasures in life. Being able to taste good food in your mouth is a source of pleasure, is a way of experiencing pleasure in life. And so if one day you took an onion and you were cutting it and accidentally you cut yourself and you have a terrible experience from that cut, do you tell yourself that you're never going to cut onions again when you're making meals? And if you do tell yourself that, that would mean that you're letting go of a very important, very essential ingredient in the meals that you're going to prepare. So you're going to be eating meals that are not tasty anymore. So that you saying that you're never going to trust somebody ever in future in relationships means you're letting go of the very important component that can allow you to experience a meaningful relationship. So when you start looking at it that way, you see how eating a meal without onions, making stew without onions, is not going to be good stew. And so you start looking at it and realizing that it's the pain that is talking, the pain that you haven't addressed, the pain that you haven't started working on, the wound that you haven't started working on, that is telling you that you're never going to trust anyone again. And so now you want to take charge as an individual and say, I do want to have meaningful relationships in my life. I do want to nurse this wound back to health, to be able to have meaningful experiences, to be able to trust somebody again. The way I'm saying it can seem like it's a smooth process and we can just have it in one conversation. No. This particular exercise could take you 5, 10, 15, 20 sessions to come to understand it. But it's those sessions that bit by bit allow you to start reconstructing yourself, to start healing yourself. And so for a lot of people, when they come in the first session, they expect that it should be able to tell them a whole plan on how they're going to deal with their betrayal, or it's going to, relieve all their pain, all the pain that they're experiencing during the betrayal. A therapy session cannot do that. And so if you're going because of that, then you're going to be disappointed again. Getting over a betrayal or dealing with a betrayal experience takes time, and it varies from individual to individual. Like I said, for some, 5 sessions might be sufficient for them to get the point and to know that it will take time and to continue working on their own without necessarily needing a therapist. They already know the concept, they already understand what they're supposed to do, and so they can go on and do it on their own. Other people will require 10 sessions, others 15, others might require even 50. People are different. People are hurt differently by different experiences. And so it's important for you to understand yourself and to understand the time that it is going to take you as an individual to come out of a betrayal situation. And I hope that's helpful. Analogies are very important and very useful in therapy sessions.